stream without being interrupted for a while today. That's might is the key word there, so...
Oh, there you are, Odo.
What kept you, my dear fellow? Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Gina.
Are you sure about what you said in there? That the boss, you know, actually died the day before? It's pretty hard to swallow. Yes, I was shocked by the revelation too, Gina.
As was I. Possibly more shocked than both of you. It's not a competition, Mr. Sholmes. I was more shocked than all of you put together. That is the autopsy report in question, is it? Yes. Strange that there's no time of death noted. I suppose there's a simple explanation, or perhaps it was a deliberate omission.
Oh dear. If it was deliberate, it puts me in mind of the last case we worked on, and Dr. Scythe.
No. Anyway, it seems that on the day before Lord Van Zieks discovered his body, Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, so perhaps something happened with him. With them. Come to think of it, you had trouble with those League men too, didn't you, Mr. Sholmes? You were taken in by their trick? No. Naturally, I wasn't taken in, as you put it. My sleuth-hound interest was merely piqued slightly by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. And that scent masks the underlying scent of deception, I suppose.
The two criminals in question are the pair we saw being arrested yesterday, aren't they? In Mr. Sholmes' suite, I mean. That's right, Suze. And it was me what took him in. Thanks to a tip-off by a good law-abiding citizen.
Indeed, yours truly. So it's going to be that pair in the witness stand next, is it? Something doesn't quite make sense to me, though. The day before Inspector Gregson was found, you hadn't had trouble with the Red-Headed League yet, had you? Why would the inspector have been investigating them? Well, the likely explanation would be that Gregson's own sleuth-hound interest was piqued by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income.
Don't tar him with the same brush as you, Sholmes.
Yes, well... Then there's the whole issue of Inspector Gregson being investigated by Lord Van Zieks for some reason.
The Reaper, the Red-Headed League, Inspector Gregson, Lord Van Zieks, and Kazuma.
Yeah, and Kazuma. I feel as though he knew we'd arrive at this point somehow.
Gosh, I think you're right.
What's he really trying to achieve here today? All the answers will soon be revealed. Observe the time, my dear fellow. This recess will be over very shortly. Yes, you're right. Kazuma was determined that he should be the one to prosecute this trial. He was determined that I should take the defense. Just what is it that he's hoping to make me see, I wonder? I get the feeling we're a long way from the end of this trial yet. Are you ready then, Mrs. Saru?
Yes.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. To resume the closed court hearing of Barak Van Zieks, here present who stands accused of murder. Now then, Prosecutor Asogi. My lord. Have you summoned the witnesses that are requested? Yes, the two members of the Red-Headed League who planned and carried out the deception. They arrived not long ago from the local prison by police carriage. Very good. Bailiff, usher the two men into the courtroom.
What voices did I give them?
These two men are currently being held by the police on suspicion of attempted extortion. You may omit your occupations, but state your names now for the court.
I'm Fabian de Russo, a descendant of the great de Russo family from Nice, in France. My name is Peppino de Rossi. I'm the third son of the great family de Rossi, the landowners from Napoli.
The two men first became acquainted at a boarding school for European nobility.
Those who graduate from DIMESC are the future leaders of Europe. But do you have any idea how boring it is to be born with the noble blood? Alas. I'm making my mission to get the better of the world by employing the little grey cells of my brain. That is all I am trying to do.
So, that's the only reason for this whole grand deception you've been carrying out?
Oui, you could say that. Not bad, eh? He has the grand ideals, but the petty plans. This strange combination is the charm of the hilarious brothers.
Hilarious. Oh my god almighty.
Si capo.
Listen to me, Babino. I have two things to say to you.
Hey, G, are you about to tell me one of your grand anecdotes? Evare. Eviva. Whatever.
First, I want you to stop calling me the Capo. And secondly, we are not the hilarious brothers. This is serious business.
Gee, better than it is. The Capo's trump card, the furrowed brow. It is deep, Capo, the furrow in the meaning of your words.
Let me do a fucking Italian goddamn accent, because I can't remember any. The court has been led to believe that under the banner of the Red-Headed League, you have conspired to swindle money from unsuspecting members of the public. Is this true?
Oui, c'est ça.
And what exactly was the nature of this deception by which you planned to defraud?
Alors, I will explain it. No, Capo, leave it to me. As you see, we both have the vivid red hair, no? At school, we were teased for this without pity. The Capo here, he was many times behind the schoolhouse crying like the Trevi fountain. He, those dogs, one day the world will respect us redheads. Every night he would bury his head in his pillow.
C'est bien, Peppino. Enough! I will explain the rest. The first step was the newspaper advertisement. About 1 week before the plan was put into operation, We listed the same notice in every paper in London. Yes, we saw that notice. It was this one, I believe, entitled To the Red-Headed League. Oui, c'est ça. I'm honored that you have seen it. It states that the only condition for joining the league is having flame-coloured hair, and that if you satisfy the interview panel and are admitted into the league, you could receive a weekly income of £4. On the date specified, red-headed hopefuls gathered in droves at a park specified in the advertisement. And from each person present, this pair took an application fee of 5 shillings. And with this money to France, it was a plan most elegant, no? No, it was most dishonourable. But to be frank, I'm stunned anybody was foolish enough to be taken in by such an obvious trick.
The park was described by one witness as choked with red-headed folk, like a coster's orange barrow.
And the day on which all these men gathered to apply was the day before the victim was discovered. Crucially, these two men spoke face to face with every single person present that day. Oui, I've seen more red-headed people in one day than I will see the rest of my life.
See, and now, every time I see the capo's hair, I feel sick to my stomach.
Anyway, why have we been summoned here today? Sorry? The date for our trial was not until tomorrow, I was told. Naturally, neither of these men have been told any details about this trial. They've only been shown this photograph. Very good. So, Mr. De Russo and Mr. De Rossi, you will now give your formal testimony for the court on the subject of the gentleman pictured in this photograph. Of course, we are always ready to help with the law. We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assembled in the park on Lime Street that day.
But I don't recall the man in this photograph. Hey, Capo?
No, I don't remember him. Obviously, he is dead now, but I assure you, he was not in the park.
No, this victim has nothing to do with us.
You have a lot to answer for, Papino. It is your fault that you got caught in the first place. You've given sworn testimony that this man in the photograph was not present. Can you be certain? Oui, I'm quite certain. We did not interview this man.
Nobody looking like this came to the park. This I can promise.
It must be noted that you have been arrested for a grand deception, however. Accordingly, this court has little confidence in your assurances.
With his attitude, we get nowhere, eh?
He's really a sulking now. This confidential document was obtained directly from Scotland Yard. It records an entry from the inspector's private diary dated the day before the incident. It reads, Lime Street, Red-Headed League, undercover.
I have the answer. Maybe there was another similar event in the park on the day in question, yeah?
That is ridiculous. There's no question that Inspector Grissom was investigating the Red-Headed League, which means it's quite possible that when he was killed... Very well. The defence may proceed with the cross-examination now. Yes, my lord. 1,000 people. That's a very big crowd.
It was quite a spectacle. Redheads had come from all over the capital. The capo here, he has the magnetismo animal, yeah? Aye?
Nah, I keep saying yeah.
Nobody else could attract so many people. If I could be born again, I would be the capo.
All those people wanted was the money, Peppino. They're £4 per week. What you suggested that you spoke personally with all 1,000 applicants?
Oui, that we did, because every one of them paid us 5 shillings. We take their names, and we take their money, and we take their addresses as well. And then I tell them we take some days to let them know. By a post, finito. Maybe 2 minutes in a person? We start early in the morning, and we stop late in the night.
So, we went 5,000 shillings in one day. It's a small fortune. Who would have thought there were 1,000 such gullible redheads in London to start with? One of whom was a great detective with chemically altered hair.
Hold it!
He doesn't look at all familiar.
No, I don't think so. And this is a wig guy. He was trying to trick us. I do not like the people who are trying to trick the other people.
Says the con artist. If between them they interviewed 1,000 people with red hair, it would be unreasonable to expect them to remember every face.
No, senor. I may be small, but my memory is very large. I never forget a thing. In my opinion, I do not think this man was in the park.
It's not going to give the court a definitive, it seems.
Hey, Capo, you didn't see a man like this, sir?
Hold it!
According to what you said, you spoke with 1,000 or more people that day.
Oui, that's true. My eyes were burning by the end of the day.
Surely then you can't actually remember every single face. How are you so certain? This particular man wasn't present.
Normally, the red hair is very distinctive, eh? But not when you have 1,000 redheads crowding around. Then it is just an eyesore. But if there was some other information you could give us, maybe then we would recall.
Yeah. That is not the line, Peppino. Remember, we do not remember him. We are sure of that factor. If there were a man with a red hairpiece, but his mustache did not match the color, then I do think I could have forgot. Do not think I could have forgotten him. There. Then I do not think I could have forgotten him. I thought I said those two had only been shown that photograph and that they'd been told nothing else at all. But what if I fed them just one other detail about the victim? For example... I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation. But what if I told you that the man in the red hairpiece was actually a detective? The man in the photograph? A detective? Yes. It would appear he found your notice in the paper suspicious and decided to investigate incognito. Sorry, but this changes nothing.
Excuse me!
Something to add, Mr. De Rossi?
I'm always adding something. Parmesan, olive oil, pepper.
What I mean is, did you not agree with your friend's last remark by any chance?
Eh? What did he just say? About the detective?
Yes, that's... Keep your mouth shut, Peppino. You have said enough already.
But why, Capo? What is the problem? There was a man who said that I am an inspector from Scotland Yard.
What? Good lord. Order, order, order! Explain this volte-face in your testimony, witness.
It's simple. A man who was at the park. A man who was at the park said to us that he was an inspector.
There was no such man.
Magda, what are you saying, Capo? Have you forgotten, eh?
I've forgotten nothing. Nobody was like this came to the park.
Basta, Capo, basta. You beat me at many things, but not to the memory and the meals. Like I said, when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is a faster.
But you are inferior to me in every other way, so shut up.
Objection!
Drop dead. The damage is done. Indeed it is, sir. Yeah, there was a man who came to the park and he said he was an inspector from Scotland Yard. However, he looked nothing like the man in the photograph. He was someone else. How can you be so sure? Because, to start with, his face was completely different.
See, it's true, it's true. The man who came was a younger. His face was clean shaven, his eyes were sadder, his chin was thinner.
No resemblance whatsoever, then. Anyway, I was not going to be fooled. I took the obvious precaution and said to him, "If you are really a detective, show us the proof."
See, the capo here, he doesn't take no nonsense, yeah? Aye?
But he was well prepared. He said he had the identification. Identification? You mean official police inspector identification? That is most unconvincing. Sorry, my lord? Consul, no incognito inspector would offer his identification for inspection. It's quite out of the question. Definitely. Why would he expose his true identity? Clearly the papers were fake.
Sotto, capo, you are a genius. As we say in Italia, it takes a thief to recognize another, eh?
And what happened after he announced that he was a detective? He became very annoyed. He said, "You are under investigation." So I took his papers from him and chased him out of the park.
It was fantastico. And look, here is the identification.
So you stole it from the man?
He added a comment. He made us very scared. But he was not who he said he was.
Indeed, the person described does not appear to have behaved as a true inspector would. However, I believe it will be prudent for these identification papers to be entered into evidence.
But I like them.
Now, let us return to the witness's testimony. Well, I suppose we should see what this inspector's identification looks like inside. Yes, it definitely looks fake, doesn't it?
Out of interest, what name is given?
Probably just something plucked out of the air. It's Tobias Gregson. Oh, wait, what?
This Scotland Yard insignia. Looks genuine to me.
But how?
The department and identification number details are all correct as well.
Since when have you known those? Do you mean to say...
Now it seems incredible, but yes. I think this is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard.
That's unbelievable. This is the real thing after all.
Hold it!
But we only have your word for that.
Hey, well what else can we do, huh?
True?
We are not having much fun these days. First we are arrested, then we are shown the horrible picture of a dead man. And now you question every single thing we say. We are the victims here. Aye, Capo?
No, you were caught carrying out a plot to swindle hundreds of innocent people.
You had to bring that up, eh? It's not fair. Aye, Capo?
Hold it!
What do you mean by that?
Capolo, you promised not to say. Aye, Capo?
After we had taken in the money that day, we should have left the country. That was my plan. I left the purchasing of the tickets for the ferry to Dunkirk to my companion here. But he brought them for the wrong day. Oops.
See, but it's an easy mistake to make. The 31st.
Ugh. I've no sympathy for you.
You were an all day late for the boat because of your stupidity.
That's only because of this that the so-called great red-headed detective caught us.
Capo, you know what I think? This is the work of God. It's a holy punishment, eh?
Peppino, for the last time. This is not only punishment. This is only if your fault. Don't blame God for your unholy mistakes. You're making me sick with anger.
Maybe I make a mistake, but when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is faster.
I've seen the evidence. You told us much we didn't already know.
What do you think, Mr. Naruto?
Well, if it was in the inspector's diary, it seems likely that he must have gone to Lime Street that day. And yet, these two both claim they didn't see him.
I have to say, they don't appear to be telling lies.
Well, they are experts in deception. Don't forget, sounding plausible is their speciality. It may be lying simply to avoid being implicated in this case as well.
Surely if they were truly experts in deception, they wouldn't have been caught.
Oh yes, you do have a point there. Seems to me like we need more information.
Definitely.
Objection!
I wonder if I could ask you to examine this identification book very closely. Miss Lestrade. Why Miss Lestrade? What is your intention here, Consul? Is this really a fake, or is it genuine? That's the question, which we can't answer ourselves.
Objection!
Don't be ridiculous. No Scotland Yard detective would allow his or her identification to be stolen.
That is the boss's. No question about it.
It can't be. As I suspected. The undercover detective who attended the Red-Headed League's enrollment on the day in question was the real Inspector Gregson, carrying out an incognito investigation. The laws! Order!
But if the boss had his identification stolen, he would have reported it straight away. I mean, he was always on me about it. If you lose something, report it at once, he said.
Could it be, then, that the inspector was physically unable to report it?
Physically? What are you saying?
Unable to? You're not suggesting... Yes, it's quite possible that he was killed before he had the chance to report his identification stolen. No. Order! The defense posits that the victim was killed the day before his body was discovered at a different location. Do you two have anything to say about that?
I know nothing. I done nothing.
Pull yourself together, Papino. Mon Dieu, you can behave a little more like a master criminal than that, non?
Now I wish I had a return to Italia.
Stop crying, Papino, please. Otherwise I...
Lumi, stop your whining and start talking.
Well, I believe the court will need to hear your story in considerably greater detail.
I know nothing. I done nothing.
But you will tell everything, or face the worst possible outcome. You will dry your eyes and testify again about these identification papers, and then the precise circumstances under which you came by them.
For
Crying out loud. Why do I always get so tired when I start this freaking game?
The truth is, we took him prisoner and kept him for the night at our secret hideout. Even though I didn't think he was a real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case. We took the man's identification from him and shut him in the room next to ours. There might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm, and the next morning we let him go. He spent the night in a nice room. It was nothing like prison, really.
This is outrageous. You imprisoned the man?
But no, it was not like a prison. He was very comfortable and calm and happy. Right, couple?
It was never part of my plan. I swear it.
So you think it wasn't my fault, yeah? Just because I got the date of the ferry wrong by one little a day.
I do not think it was your fault, Peppino. I know it.
No. Por favor, Capo. It's not fair.
You shall have plenty of time for squabbling back at the prison, gentlemen. Ugh. I don't believe this. How could he have been a real detective? Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. So the day before the incident, Gregson spent the night confined in this pair's hideout.
Hold it!
Do you realize what you're saying? You have to believe me, I never intended for that to happen. And I'm sure the detective did not intend it either. Do you think? But there was nothing else I could do.
See, nothing else. That was the first crime for the Capo. He was at the ends of his wits.
I've told you before, Peppino, that is not the way to describe a criminal mastermind. What about this hideout of yours? An old empty house behind the park on Lime Street.
We rented the place for 2 days. It was an inspired idea by the Capo here.
An impulsive idea of mine, I would say.
No, not impulsive. Inspired. Aye, Capo?
What am I supposed to say to that, Peppino? It was in the house described that you confined Inspector Gregson, was it? Ugh. Me. But you have to remember, I was under the impression that he was a pretender, not a real inspector. Doesn't quite add up, though. I didn't think the man was a real inspector. There would have been no reason to take him prisoner, would there? No, you are right, but we couldn't be completely certain.
Hold it!
Too scared? Why? Because
We had come to the park. We didn't know.
why had he come to the park? To the park, we didn't know. Blah.
There was a chance that he had seen through my plan. And if that wasn't the case, he would go straight to the police station to blow the whistle on us. Even if he was just feigning to be the inspector, he was up to no good, without a doubt.
I think most people would agree that it's you two who are up to no good.
Well, see, you may be right. Hi, Capo?
The point is, we were not able to escape from England immediately. That is why we had no choice but to take the man prisoner. What I don't understand is, why the inspector felt the need to show you his identification in the first place.
See, I asked myself the same question.
We were writing down their names and addresses of all the people, and we took 5 shillings from that day. I have forgotten what name it said, but the address, it startled me.
See, address, Scotland Yard Homicide Division, he said.
What? He probably didn't like your face, Peppino. Anyway, I was not rude. I just politely asked him why he said it. And that's when he started to say he was an inspector. Not long afterwards, he took out his identification. Was Inspector Gregson playing it? Tell the court what happened next. You took him back to your hideout, you say?
See, we did that.
Hold it!
being this identification book here, correct?
See, that is the one.
What made you believe that it was a forgery?
I've never seen the real one, of course, but he was so suspicious, this man. Lord, I was thinking it must be falso. Hi, couple.
Oui, it is just as Peppino has said. We were convinced it was not genuine.
They're together, the hilarious brothers. We took the man captive.
All we did was shove him inside a locked room. Then we made preparations to transport all the money. In for a penny, in for a pound.
Hold it!
What do you mean by a little tussle exactly? It was nothing. Just a minor incident.
The falso inspector, he was a real piece of the work. Hi, couple.
What happened?
Uffa, it was a disaster. We gave him a nice room, and what does he do? In the middle of the night, he tries to escape through the ventilator.
Can you blame him? We just didn't answer, and we caught him again.
Can you blame us?
Wait, you didn't shoot the man in your haste, did you? Yes. Who do you think we are? Of course not. I simply caught hold of him again and took him back to the room.
Excuse me!
Mr. De Rossi, is something wrong?
Hey, me?
Something Mr. DeRusso just said seemed to make you, well, seemed to make you act even more strangely than usual. What was that all about?
Cavalla, at times like that, you don't want to have the capo after you, believe me. And I speak from personal experience.
Personal experience? That is enough, Peppino. There is no need to say more.
The truth is, the night before we put the red-headed Meek plan into action, I was scared. It was not fair to the couple, but I tried to run away.
It's a shame you didn't manage it.
But the capo here, he came after me like the turbiner. And he dragged me back to the house, kicking and screaming. I still have the bruises to prove it. Hi, capo.
Roses, you say?
Hi, you wanna see? You wanna see my fantastical bruises?
That is enough now, Peppino. No one wants to look at any part of you.
What did they do? I show you, or I don't. I show you, or I don't.
You do, now.
Lord, if everybody wants to see, then I do it. Haka, you see? It's still very visible, eh?
That red ring around your neck. You got that when you were dragged back to the house?
Gee, the capo, sometimes he is very rough, and
I said that's enough. Peppino's neck is nothing to do with what we are talking about here. You have my word. Yes. What is your opinion, Counsel? This red ring around Mr. De Rossi's neck? I wonder, does it matter? Sure. Mr. De Rossi, I am going to have to ask you to amend your testimony with details about that mark on your neck.
Hey, couple. You see, everyone is interested in what I say.
Ugh. Very well. You will amend your testimony as requested, Mr. De Rossi.
See, if you really wanted to know. He tried to escape, but the capo put a collar on him and dragged him back, like what he did to me, see?
Hold it!
Are you saying that red mark was caused by...
See, a big collar made from the leather.
a leather collar? Is this true, Mr. DeRusso?
What the? We had a St. Bernard dome when I was younger. It is a souvenir from that time, with a very strong chain.
A strong chain. Did you put that around your friend's neck?
I'm sorry. I was so angry that he was leaving me alone. You did not have to tie the chain to the leg of the bed, though. I would not have tried to run again.
You didn't do that to Inspector Gregson as well, did you?
Treat the people equal. Is the capo's his motto, eh?
Starting to sound a lot more like a prison all of a sudden.
The capo is a tough, but the capo is a rough.
Ugh, I shouldn't have done it. So, the following morning when you released the inspector...
He had the red ring around his neck, just like me.
Peppino, s'il vous plaît, leave it now.
Now you know the capo here. You don't want to tangle with him, eh? But for the inspector, it's not so bad.
Hold it!
You took away the man's freedom. However comfortable you make it sound, you are still holding him prisoner.
If you say that, then I say this. There is something that takes away our freedom too. The lack of our money. So we were prisoners as well, all of us.
Huh?
No money, no freedom. This is the truth. It makes me mad, and it makes me sad. What can we do?
Well... You feel so disenfranchised, take money to court. Though it'll cost you, of course.
There you have it. You see, that is why we need the Red-Headed League, to fight for the justice.
Perhaps he has a point.
No, Mr. Naruhodo. All we did was to give the man a comfortable place to sleep for the night. And you say it was a prisoner, huh?
Perhaps he has a point again.
Now again, Mr. Naruhodo. You should have heard him snoring. One day, if anyone was disturbed, it was us.
Not much to go on, really.
That testimony does make me wonder, you know. About this pocket watch belonging to the inspector, I mean.
Ah yes, the one he treasured so much, apparently.
If he was confined but not restrained, as the witnesses are implying, he would still have been able to wind his watch.
Very true, yes. So did Inspector Gregson actually die when he was being held captive by these redheads?
In which case, is it possible that these two young men are responsible for Inspector Gregson's?
To be honest, I find that hard to believe. Perhaps we should try to find out exactly what happened. Bleh.
Very wise, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes.
Objection!
So the day before his body was discovered, Inspector Gregson was taken prisoner while working incognito.
No, no. It was not like that. It was hardly a prison. It was an, invitation to stay. It was only...
However you describe it, there's one glaring inconsistency that remains. What inconsistency is this, Consul? I would ask the court to look closely at this photograph of the victim, Inspector Gregson. You will see that there is no red ring visible around his neck.
But that makes no sense. It was me who took the collar off the man in the morning. And I saw the red bruise on his neck, just like I have.
Given that the mark is still clearly visible on this witness's neck, we'd expect to see bruising on the victim, who was put in the collar more recently than Mr. Russi. Indeed, that is most peculiar.
But what we are telling you, huh? We say this from the beginning. Many times,
Oui, Papino is right.
The man in the photograph. He is someone different to the man we held captive that night.
Order! It would appear then, not on the day before the incident, the man who visited the park on Lime Street posing as an incognito inspector was not Inspector Gregson at all.
Objection!
If that's true, however, how do you explain the inspector's identification? This is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. It's inconceivable that someone could have stolen such an important item from the inspector. The prosecution made that assertion itself.
And we also know that the inspector had made a note about the Redhead League in his diary for that day. Which surely means we can't divorce the two events completely.
The inconsistency noted by the defense is most troubling. If it were the real Inspector Gregson whom these two red-headed gentlemen encountered, the fact that no bruising can be seen around his neck defies explanation. But equally, if they actually encountered an imposter, how did that person come to be in possession of the real Inspector's identification? Does the defense have some plausible explanation, Counsel?
Thing defies explanation. It is for precisely these occasions that we keep meticulous notes on the court record, Mr. Naruto. Because those are the facts, and the facts cannot lie.
No, the facts can't lie. Even when they point to something so incredible it's almost unbelievable. Well, my lord, the true identity of the person who turned up in the park for the Red-Headed League's enrollment is revealed by the information in the court record, I believe. Good gracious! Very tantalizing, Mr. Naruhodo. So why don't you help us all to see whether the truth is... to see whatever truth it is that you've apparently seen. Who exactly was this inspector that appeared before Mr. De Russo and Mr. De Rossi? Though it seems incredible, I admit, the undeniable facts point to only one thing. Since no bruising can be seen on the victim's neck, the person who these two red-headed men took prisoner that day cannot have been Inspector Gregson. In other words, your whole argument up to now has been a waste of time.
Objection!
On the contrary, I haven't finished. What? There's no bruising on the victim's neck, so the question immediately posed next is, who exactly was the man in the park on Lime Street found to be carrying Inspector Gregson's identification?
See, that's right. We tell the same story every time. Whoever this man was, The capo dragged him from the pillar to a post with the dog collar.
Mon Dio, Peppino, I was not so ash as you say,
So who was that false inspector, eh? Who was he?
Clearly the defense has an idea about that. About the true identity of the man needs to imprison that night. I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate post-haste. Who did the witness encounter in the park, posing as Inspector Gregson? You can see it on his neck right now.
Take that!
Goodness me, isn't that?
One of the witnesses who was in the stand in this very courtroom earlier today. A nameless man whose only occupation appears to be peddling hearsay to passers-by.
Objection!
What on earth would a street seller be doing with a police inspector's identification papers? Witnesses, is this the man or not?
What has happened to his lip? Huh? See, this man is not for the Red-Headed League, eh? He's, looking for the Twisted Lip League, no?
Perhaps rather than making such a rash claim next time, you should bite your lip instead.
Seems improbable, yes, but one undeniable fact remains. During his testimony earlier, I noted something around the man's neck. A red ring of bruising.
Huh? What?
The defense demands that Mr. Gossett be brought back to the stand.
Order, order! Bailiff, bring the aforementioned witness back into the courtroom. Immediately. Well, I never. An undeniable ring of bruising indeed. And identical to that of the witness beside him.
Now what's going on here, eh? I've always had this, me. It's a birthmark, isn't it? Birthmark, you say?
I assume the reason you've been recalled to the stand has been explained to you.
Something about an inspector again. But I'm telling you, you got it all wrong as usual.
You're denying all knowledge of it.
Well, of course I am. Are you trying to kill me with all this nonsense, eh?
Well, at least you'll have more stories to peddle back on Fresno Street, won't you? Now, we're going to need you to testify again.
And you, Mr. De Russo and Mr. De Rossi, I'm sure you'll cooperate, won't you? Do we have any choice? We are in bigger trouble, eh, Capo?
That's quite enough slithery chatter. Proceed with the testimony. There.
The man who claimed to be an inspector that day was definitely not this man. That's right, see? You think we would have forget these grand lips, eh? Well, I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I've no interest in any Red-Headed League. I'm alone in the world, me. I've no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I could carry off a disguise with a face like this?
It would certainly appear that we have the wrong man.
What have I been telling you, huh? There was no need for this pointless testimony.
That's right. I'm just a simple peddler, remember? Fresno Street's all I know. Thought I've come by a police inspector's identification book, eh? Well, yes, that's hard to explain, but... A brief cross-examination, I think, Counsel. Very brief. Isn't there anyone in this courtroom who thinks I might be onto something?
I stand steadfastly at your side as always, Mr. Naruhodo.
Hold it!
So you say, but how can you be quite so certain? There is no need to hurt your hands on the desk, monsieur. Surely the reason is obvious, no? Because I have never seen lips like this. Nevertheless, there's a clear red mark around Mr. Gossip's neck. It looks very much like that left behind on the neck of your colleague by your prized collar.
Mon Dieu, with your words, it is like you are trying to wring my neck. Does look very much like my neck, though, eh?
No, this is a birthmark, lad. The biggest lips in London and a neck to die for. Aye, they broke them all when they made me. It was the first time in my life. I feel lucky to have been born with red hair. I thought being Japanese made you stand out in London. So, you maintain that you've never seen this man before? Oui, c'est ça. I was swatted by the flames of my hair. So, this pride has outgrown the frustration with your hair now, has it?
Hold it!
Oh, yes, I don't imagine I'd forget those lips in a hurry either.
This is what I am saying. For some reason it makes me want to eat. How did Fabian call it? An eclair. You know, I've never seen hair as black as yours before either.
Likewise, I'd never seen red hair like yours until I came to Britain.
See, maybe as a national trait though? Maybe other people from this man's country have other grand lips.
No, lad, I was born like you on Fresno Street, and I've never left.
That is the problem, see?
So you definitely didn't go to the park on Lime Street that day, Mr. Gossip. Now, how many times do you want me to say it, eh?
Hold it!
So, you'd heard of the Red-Headed League, had you? You don't get a name like Gossip for nothing, eh? My business to know what's going off in town. I sold the tasty tidbit to a few fair redheads that came past me. Just between us, I even got sandwich to cough up for it.
Well, he does have a very red nose if that counts.
Who knows? But as you can see, my own hair's not got a tin of red in it. In any case, Fresno Street's my patch. You won't catch me sliding off to some other part of town. No, sir, not likely.
Excuse me!
Mr. DeRusso? Oui. Can I help you? Did Mr. Gossip's words just now lead you to remember something relevant, perhaps? It was the other day when I was looking for a place near the park, a small house or something. To be the headquarters of your Red-Headed League, yes.
I visited an housing agent on Lamb Street, and there I saw him. This man was paying money to the agent.
What? Mr. Gossip with a housing agent?
Oui. He had some kind of contract in his hand, and they were clearly discussing terms.
No, you're mistaken, chum. I've never left Fresno Street like I said before. You've mistaken me for someone else. Someone with the same face.
No, the capo is right. I remember it too. He was paying the man with the banknotes.
With notes? Like I said, that wasn't me.
I was curious why this man with the dirty clothes had so much money. So he looked at the name on the papers.
What name was written? Mr. Gossip?
No, this man he lies. He tells you that he has no name. But in fact, his name is Hugh Bone. Is better than Mr. Gossip, I think, see?
No! I'm a peddler of tidbits of information, like I said, on Fresno Street, and that's that. I don't much like folk talking about my personal life. Indeed. And it is not the intention of the court to invade the privacy of witnesses. Very well, I shall respect your wishes, sir. The aforementioned name shall be redacted from all court records of this trial, assuming no objections.
Objection!
Sorry, my lord, but the defence does object. Because the name just mentioned has a very deep significance to this case. Good gracious. Do you similarly object, Prosecutor Asogi? As it happens, my lord, that particular name has already been mentioned during today's proceedings. Well, I never. In what capacity?
Hugh Bone. The name of the leaseholder of the room.
Let me put this very simply. The victim's body was discovered in your rented room. I suggest, sir, that you start talking. Well, all right. I suppose that might be the case, So your real name is Hugh Bone. Well, just between us, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but there's no finer peddler of tidbits in town. So I happen to be able to afford a grubby little room in a falling down backstreet townhouse. You do? Once every 6 months I go and pay the rent to the agent on Lime Street. Oh, I remember now. There were 2 vulgar redheads in there last time.
Hey, if either of us is vulgar, it's not me.
Think again about even more. Why didn't you bring this up before? It's like I told you already. I don't like talking about my personal life. I'm a tidbit peddler, as far as everyone else is concerned. No fuss. You will update your testimony to include this most surprising revelation, Mr. Bone. I must. So, the leaseholder Scotland Yard has been looking for since the body was discovered. Has been here under our noses all along. Aye, I read the room where that fellow was found, it's true. Oh, what difference it makes.
Hold it!
So, you live in that room, presumably, do you? No, I don't live there. What do you think? There's no bed in there. Just a desk. And why would you want to rent it? Why? I don't think I should have to say, really. Then how about the notice board in there? Which was covered from top to bottom in confidential documents only the police should have had access to. No, that board's not mine. The inspector must have brought it along. It's only the other bits and bobs that belong to me. The desk and the chair and that. People don't generally carry enormous notice boards around with them. The real question is, why was Inspector Gregson killed there in your room? Well, obviously I've not the faintest idea. I mean, it's causing me no end of bother, to be honest.
Seems to me that Mr. Bone, would rather as little is known about this room as possible for some reason.
Yes, it does come across that way, and more importantly, knowing that the scene of the crime is actually his room completely changes things. In particular, there is one part of his testimony that's really bothering me now. That's how I'm finally going to undo this man.
Hold it!
You mean you have no family? No, none at all. So I spend my days on Fresno Street peddling tidbits to passers-by. Hoping, just between us that is, that eventually someone else with lips like mine will come along.
I don't think so.
You may be right. Anyway, that mark on your neck is just too much of a coincidence for us to ignore. Well, what's a fella to do then, eh? If you don't believe me, we're at an impasse. There's nothing I can do but flick my lip. Looks like I'm not going to get anywhere here unless I can produce some proof. You're basically saying I got dressed up and posed as some fancy inspector, aren't you? Well, it's beyond how you think I could do that.
Hold it!
Maybe you could say with a moustache or a beard to cover up that lip? Aye, perhaps. But if I was going to stick some fake facial hair on to cover up this fine specimen, I'd end up looking like his lordship over there, wouldn't I? Pardon? I assure you my lips are entirely unremarkable. And I would ask you not to cast such scrutinizing looks in my direction, Consul. Sorry, my lord. The imagination got the better of me there.
Well, Inspector Gregson did wear a moustache, of course.
You're right, he did. So perhaps he was hiding something himself. You could barely have hidden a crumb in a moustache of that size.
And anyway, the detective we spoke with had no facial hair at all. See, the capo is right. He was a clean shaven.
It certainly seems beyond the realm of possibility that this witness could have disguised himself as the victim.
Aye, it does, and it is.
That's the extent of their testimony, is it?
What's your feeling, Mr. Naruto?
Well, what Mr. Boone says is undeniable. It'd be all but impossible to hide those lips with any form of disguise.
Perhaps yes, but nevertheless the marks around his neck is equally undeniable. And it's identical to the one that Mr. De Rossi suffered.
Yes, that's true. Why does this whole disguise idea just keep playing on my mind?
Objection!
If you have no kinfolk, as you put it, then explain why it is that among the sparse furnishings we found this photograph in the room. Ah. I presume if you've been renting the room, that this photograph belongs to you, does it not?
Oh, well...
Mr. Boone, drop the pretense, and tell the court exactly who you really are.
I don't know what you mean. I'm a peddler, I keep telling you so. You really don't need to bother with me. Please, just leave it alone.
As the man says, leave it alone. Whatever the truth is about this man's life, it has no bearing on this case. Because it's simply not possible that he impersonated Inspector Gregson.
Objection!
How can you be so sure? Just look at the man. No amount of disguise could ever hide those unmissable features.
Objection!
But what if we were to look at this the other way around? What do you mean?
Yes, Counsel, what do you mean?
Well, there's no denying that Mr. Boone's lip is very prominent indeed. But consider the possibility that his prominent lip is itself part of an elaborate disguise. Then, hiding that prominent feature, in other words, revealing his true face, would make an entirely impenetrable disguise. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Hugh Bone?
Witness, are you still hiding the truth from this court?
If that's the disguise, then underneath it, his true identity must be...
Yes, that's right. There's really only one person he could really be. My lord, the defense believes it can reveal Mr. Boone's true identity to the court.
No, please, no. Very well then, Consul. What is the true identity of this peddler who goes simply by the name of Gossip on the street?
Even got the hair and everything.
Take that!
Your real name is actually Mr. Vigil, isn't it? Mr. Daily Vigil.
Yeah! I don't recall that name, Consul. Who is this Mr. Vigil?
It's a name I encountered yesterday, my lord. It has to do with a certain client of Mr. Herlock Sholmes. A young gentlewoman came to the detective asking him to locate her missing husband. The woman in this photograph, in fact. And this is Miss Vigil.
What?
From what I understand, you haven't returned home since the night before the inspector was found dead. But of course, on the night, you were being held captive by the two Redheaded League men. And last night, you were put up by the prosecution service in preparation for testifying in this trial. Because we'd been led to believe that you, Miss Venus, and Mr. Sandwich were all homeless. Being important witnesses in this case, we needed to know where we could find you, of course. And that explains why you've not only been unable to return home, but also unable to contact your wife. She's been beside herself with worry, waiting for you at the Vigil residence.
No, you just hold on a minute. I don't have the first idea.
What I'm talking about? Really? It's a simple enough matter to confirm my suspicions. All we have to do is pull off that disguise.
No, please. Bailiff, bring soap, a sponge, and a washboard at once. Mr. De Russo and Mr. De Rossi, you will restrain the witness. Oui, my lord.
See, my lord.
Uh, no! Stop! Get off! Please! Don't! Well, we are now seeing your true features, I presume.
Lift your head, sir, so the court can see your face.
It would appear that the defense counsel's assertion was entirely correct. This has all been a very elaborate deception. So, witnesses, tell the court, have you seen this man before?
I don't believe it, but
See, there is no question. This is the inspector we saw in the park.
Extraordinary.
on the day of the Redhead League enrollment, the man claiming to be Inspector Gregson who appeared before Mr. DeRusso and Mr. DeRossi in the park was you, disguised as the inspector, or rather, was you posing as the inspector in no disguise at all? Mr. Vigil was formerly employed as the chief warder at Berkeley Prison.
The chief warder? Then your career had promise. Why you would quite possibly have become the future governor of the prison. Bleh. What on earth have you been doing peddling tattletale on Fresno Street?
Well, it's been 10 years since Mr. Vigil worked at the prison. 10 years. I'm really dreadfully sorry about all of this. Yes, it's true. I am Daily Vigil.
And you were the chief warder at Berkeley Prison 10 years ago.
So, where did Mr. Hugh Bone come from?
Bone is the other me. It's a name I invented.
Well, evidently there is a great deal under the surface here.
I'll explain everything.
I'll tell you just how wretched my life has become. As you say, it was 10 years ago now that my employment at Berkeley as Berkeley's chief warder came to an end. Having left the prison service, I searched for some new occupation by which to earn a wage. But times were hard in London, and I found no suitable engagements at all. In desperation one day, I turned my hand at selling wares on Fresno Street. But your wife appears to know nothing of this. She still maintains that you are the chief warder at Berkeley Prison. I was utterly determined that my wife should not know of my failings, which is why I never told her. I opened an account at the bank under the name of Hugh Bone, and I rented the cheapest room I could find on Fresno Street. The scene of this very crime we're investigating. Yes, that's right. Place from which I could emerge every morning at 8 as a squalid peddler. And transform myself back every evening at 5 into a well-dressed man about town before returning home. That quickly became my daily routine.
I was puzzled by the lack of furniture in the room. But that explains it.
Why on earth didn't you just tell us this in the first place? I have a wife, sir. 2 sons. And without wishing to sound self-conceited, they regard me with some pride. I couldn't bring myself to disappoint them. So instead you decide to conceal your occupation from them? Yes. I've made such a terrible mess of everything. Still, one thing doesn't add up. No matter how many tidbits of information you could sell to passing gentlemen, even at 6 pence apiece, you couldn't hope to match the salary you must have commanded as chief warder of the prison.
Very true. I've kept your family in comfort despite 10 years of somewhat misbegotten employment.
That was all thanks to Inspector Gregson. What? Inspector Gregson? What on earth? It was some years after I'd invented Boone and begun my other life as a street seller. The inspector that is, recognized me one day.
Do you mean to say the victim was an acquaintance of yours?
I knew him from my time working at the prison. When he saw what I'd become, he was deeply troubled for me and my family. From that day forward, he visited me on Fresno Street with increasing regularity. And one day, he asked me if I would carry out a secret assignment for him. Secret? What was it? It was to impersonate the inspector.
What? Impersonate him?
We always met in that little room so the inspector could brief me.
Visit Orxie's today and take a statement from the proprietress.
It was always something along those lines. Surveillance work, interviewing people. On those occasions, he would lend me his identification so people would believe who I was. My instructions were to make an impression, to let people know that Inspector Gregson had been at work. And for those services, he compensated me financially.
A Scotland Yard inspector willingly relinquished his identification into your care with intent to deceive? That, as I'm sure I need not point out, is a very serious criminal offence. But why? What was the point of you impersonating him?
I truthfully do not know. All I can say is that the inspector warned me on numerous occasions.
Now remember, Vigil, I need your solemn word. You don't blab about this to anyone, alright? Ever. Even if, well, if I end up a croaker.
In time, he started to bring papers with him to the room as well. It became something of a second office for him. So, in fact, the person who declared himself to be Inspector Gregson at the park on Lime Street was really... Yes, it was me, acting on the inspector's orders. As usual, I removed my Boone disguise, and then went as instructed to the park armed with the inspector's identification book. It never occurred to me that the bruise on my neck might give me away.
Well, it would seem this confession completely destroys the defense's case. Explain yourself, Prosecutor Asogi.
My learned friend's assertion was as follows. The victim was killed at another location on the day before his corpse was discovered, at the hands of these two Redhead League men when they impersonated the inspector.
But no, that can't be. After all, it wasn't the inspector who went to the park that day. It was me. Oh, goodness. Finally, we have clarity. We had nothing to do with the murder of the inspector. And merci, Monsieur de la Fence, for proving it.
Order! Indeed, it would appear that we have reached a de facto conclusion of sorts. These witnesses had no involvement in the murder of the victim, as proven somewhat ironically by the defense. I hereby call an end to the cross-examination.
Hold it!
Pardon me, my lord, but with your permission, I would like to pose one further question to the witnesses.
Kazuma?
What question, counsel?
It concerns the events of 10 years ago. I believe you would have been present at a very significant execution that was carried out at the time.
10 years ago?
The execution of the professor, Genshin Asogi. I want to know exactly what your involvement was. Oh! Answer me, man.
One moment, counsel. Is this related to the current case?
Naturally. It is the prosecution's belief that this case and the events of 10 years ago are inextricably linked.
Does the defense concur, counsel?
Kazuma, you're not yourself. You're not as calm and collected as usual.
Oh, Kazuma-sama. No wonder he's acting this way. This individual's memories of what happened 10 years ago would tell the tale of Genshin Asuki's last moments. His own father.
No, I do understand that. Even so... Kazu, Prosecutor Asogi, do you genuinely believe that this question requires an answer in order to learn the truth behind Inspector Gregson's death? I need you to trust me, please. Very well, then the defense has no objection.
I see. In that case, you will answer the question, witness.
The truth is, I remember very little of that time.
You've forgotten?
I'm sorry to say yes. As I said, I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. For some peculiar reason, my memory of the events leading up to that moment is extremely hazy. Does that not strike you as strange, Mr. Naruhodo?
Sorry?
Well, 10 years is a long time. But to have forgotten the reason why he left such an important job.
Yes, you're right. Not only that, this individual's claim contradicts what we already know. The human spirit is a fragile thing. It's broken all too easily. Which is why we have a tendency to wrap it up for protection.
Sorry? The human spirit?
I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When we experience pain and suffering that we feel unable to bear, we block it out, obliterate it from our memories, seal it away. But it never truly leaves us. If the seal is broken, the memories resurface. And when they do, that fragile spirit may finally be crushed.
But I really don't. Kazuma-sama.
But if it must be crushed, then so be it. Because the truth won't stay buried. It's coming out, one way or another. Right, now I understand. It's clear what his intentions are. He needs to expose the truth at any cost. Perhaps if I pointed out the contradiction in what Mr. Vigil claimed earlier, it might cause some crucial memories to return to him. But should I? Should I present the evidence or not? Do it. I have no idea how this is going to go. But this is a court of law, and I have a duty to pursue the truth. Mr. Vigil, I'd like you to look at this. Evidence that clearly contradicts your version of events.
Take that!
Just a few moments ago, you made the following statement. I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. Well, yes. In other words, you claim to have left the post of Chief Warder of your own volition. Well, yes, of course. Why? Tell me. Do you remember seeing this document before? No, I don't. This is a dismissal notice ordering the immediate termination of a prison staff member's employment. A dismissal notice? And the name on the notice is yours, Mr. Vigil.
What? What? It's mine?
So you didn't resign from the prison service at all? For some reason, you were dismissed as Chief Warder from Barclay.
No, there's been some mistake. I'm sure. I'm sure I tendered my resignation. This dismissal notice is nonsense. Isn't it?
If you were forcibly dismissed, there must have been a good reason. Clearly, you did something. Mr. Vigil, it's time to break the seal and have you remember. According to the few remaining records, the final execution that you supervised was on the 17th of June, 10 years ago. And on that day, something very serious took place at Barclay Prison.
17th of June.
Was that the professor's execution?
Professor.
As you were the Chief Warder at the time, it stands to reason that you would have been present throughout the proceedings.
It does sound familiar.
And yet, that execution never took place. The convict, ostentatiously executed earlier that day, later re-emerged from his grave.
The convict came back to life?
In the cemetery in the middle of the night. There was a witness.
However, the witness claims that a moment after he saw the convict clambering out of his grave, a gunshot rang out from over his shoulder, and the bullet pierced the professor's chest, killing him instantly. Those may have been the professor's actual last moments.
Yes, seeing as you were in charge of overseeing executions at the time. You must know the truth about what really happened. It's in your head, somewhere deep down. Well, Chief Warder Daily Vigil, I know there are memories in your head that can explain what happened on the 17th of June 10 years ago. And now it's time for you to drag them up. Mr. Vigil? Yes, the whole prison was complete chaos. The prisoner escaped. He was killed in the cemetery. Shocking news ripped through Berkeley like a hurricane. What?
Order! 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 Do you mean to say, Mr. Vigil, that your memories of the time have returned?
My head, it's like some floodgates have been opened. The images, screams.
Oh, my goodness.
The papers. There were reports, articles about a man who'd seen a ghost. Yes, Enoch Drebber.
But surely those reports were exaggerated.
There were traces at the scene.
Traces of what?
Lowgate Cemetery, at plot number 139. Blood. Lots of blood. That's where the man was buried, of course. Obviously, something terrible had happened there.
The depths of conspiracy and depravity from which this tale is emerging are quite staggering.
I reviewed the police records from that time extensively. A thorough investigation was conducted by Scotland Yard to ascertain how the convict managed to escape in the first place. And the conclusion reached by the investigative team was that a member of the prison staff must have been involved.
Are you suggesting that a prison warder abetted the man's bid for freedom?
Yes, and I was suspected of doing it. Of using that mass murderer's execution as a way to help him escape. You did what? Remember now, the horror of it all is coming back to me. One evening, a few days after the execution, some detectives came to the prison. I was called to the governor's office at the top of the watchtower.
I'm sorry, Daly. This is serious business, but I can't help you now. As Chief Warder, you are responsible for overseeing the execution of four. Well, it seems the fellows at Scotland Yard want to have a few wee words with you about it. You'd better pack your things, laddie. You're to attend in person.
As soon as he told me that, my mind just went completely blank. And the next thing I knew, I... The professor, the most hated killer in our country's history. And I let him escape. I'm finished. My life is over. Ah!
Order! Bailiff, fetch a doctor at once. Court is adjourned for today with immediate effect.
So,
With Mr. Vigil's collapse, proceedings came to an abrupt end for the day. Once again overshadowed by the legacy of that notorious killer, appearing like a cursed ghost ship on a foggy ocean. Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Vigil, Kazuma, and Gregson. All of them bound by invisible chains anchored to the same wreckage in the murky depths of the past. But the miraculous light that had been trying to cut through the gloom and shine on those tragic events was playing on the edges of the truth at last.
Right, that's the trial. Part 1 done. Okie doke. That will be all for now. And I'll be back in about an hour with thingy, Xenoblade, that's the one. Hopefully I'll be able to get a full day in today. With no interruptions. It'll be a dream. For now, though, bye.